welcome to AnimeCons TV. We're your source for reports and discussion about AnimeCons and other fan conventions. Every so often we take a break from our regular episodes and talk about recent convention news and also respond to some of your comments and questions. So let's get right to the news. In convention news, we'll start with some headlines. Walker Stalker Con faces more trouble as the owner, James Frazier, stepped down in October following a Better Business Bureau calling conventions a scam and canceled events and other issues. A number of stars of The Walking Dead have also stated they will no longer appear at any of the organization's cons. In response, Walker Stalker CEO Michael DeVault announced Walker Stalker Con and FanFest ticket sales would be suspended in order to plot our path. And then 2 days later, DeVault resigned. Also in news, the final judgment has been ruled on all 17 counts on Vic Mignogna's defamation case, and he lost everything. He lost every single one. Under Texas's anti-SLAPP law, he now owes nearly $250,000 to the defendants, Monica Rial, Ron Toy, Jamie Markey, and Funimation. That's in addition to whatever Vic owes his own lawyers, which will likely end up use all the money from the GoFundMe. So the rest of this $250,000 he's probably gonna have to pay out of his own pocket. And so he appeals, which seems likely, and he loses the appeal, which is almost certain, then he'll be on the hook for hundreds of thousands more. Now, since we're closing in on the end of 2019, let's take a look at what guests have made the most appearances at anime conventions. The following list only counts anime conventions, or conventions with a significant amount of anime programming. So, guest appearance at your local Comic-Con, it's probably not going to count. Also, this only counts billed guest appearances. So if a con like Anime Expo lists someone as a guest, it counts. But if a voice actor appeared at a panel at AX and they didn't get billed as a guest, that doesn't count. And so this does also count remaining cons coming up in December of 2019. So we'll look at the top 10, starting from number 10. But there's a 6-way tie for the number 5 spot. So with 15 AnimeCon appearances in 2019, we have Steve Bloom, Lucy Christian, Samurai Dan Coughlin, Josh Creel, Brittany Karbowski, and Derek Stephen Prince. And there's also a tie for the number 3 spot. With 18 appearances each, we have Greg Ayers and Justin Brenner. And the 2 guests who made 20 AnimeCon appearances in 2019, at the top of the list, Morgan Berry and J. Michael Tatum. Congratulations. It's interesting to note the shift since 2018, when Vic Mignogna was at the top with 26 AnimeCon appearances. In 2019, he's tied for 98th. 98. He only made 6 AnimeCon appearances in 2019. 2 of those were in January, before everything started to come out about him. The third one was back anime. It was just a few days after everything came out, so it was really too late for any cancellations. And so compare that to the 10 cons that have canceled him. He only made 6 AnimeCon appearances, 10 canceled him. So that's how things are changing. Now let's go to our mailroom for feedback. We got an email from James who writes, "Hello to you all at AnimeCons TV. It's been a while, and I meant to send you guys a letter back in the summer, but I didn't know when your feedback episodes would be. Anyways, I loved the con report that Doug did on Anime NYC. It was informative and specific about what was good and how the con can improve itself. I also loved Doug's interview with Toru Furuya, and I hope that you guys will have more interviews with people in the anime industry, both Japan and the US. I really liked Patrick's video on how a Q&A at a convention can better for the fans and panelists. Some of it seemed to carry over into Doug's report on Anime NYC and the Q&A with Yoshiyuki Tomino. I liked how Sketch and Shiva described DragonCon as Mardi Gras for nerds, and that's exactly how it feels. When I go next time, I want to do at least one party or rave in one of the host hotels. DragonCon is so big that you really need to pick what you want to do. In ending, thank you guys so much for all of your videos, especially the con reports, and I look forward to your videos in 2020. Till next time, this is your friend, follower, and fellow otaku, James the White Kiba. It's funny that you mentioned that some of my Q&A panel recommendations seem to carry over into Doug's report. It was actually Doug that suggested that topic. We were originally going to have a con report that week, but that fell through because the con didn't have really enough to report on. It was a small thing. And so we were going to do a different topic, but then Doug suggested panel Q&A. I was like, oh yes, that's a really good idea. And so he suggested some of the stuff in there, and I think that was a direct result of stuff he was seeing at AnimeC as he was sending those suggestions. So it's interesting you picked up on that. In response to our episode on staying cool in costume, the Skeeter02 said, "Thanks for the tips. Also a drinking backpack for hikers. Ice backpack in the front with plastic freeze packs in it. It's a good idea." And also I've used Camelback. I don't know if that was mentioned in the episode, but it's one where you've got the water reservoir in the back and a tube coming out, so you can just have a tube, just take a quick drink whenever you need it. It's handy to carry around the water. Even if you're not in cosplay, it's handy to have that at a convention. Fill up your water before you go, and then you don't need to, find a drinking fountain where the water might taste funny, or spend $5 for a bottle of water. In response to our previous feedback episode, Stephen Jones wrote, "This content is too pure for life. Like it feels like stuff from the creation of YouTube. It just gives good vibes." Well, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, we don't do a lot of crazy cuts. We're not all flashy and the typical YouTube stuff. We give the information, we concentrate on the information. We're not great on the YouTube blitz. And technically this is a podcast. We just happen to publish the video version on YouTube. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. In response to my episodes on starting a convention, Hook, Yarn, and Needle wrote, "Patrick, I don't know if you're still active on your YouTube, but I thought I'd ask, what would you say is the average first-year attendance for a comic or geek convention, typically when not sponsored and one run out of pocket?" Well, first, don't start a convention. If it's too late for that, you can't back out. There's really no good way to plan attendance for the first year. That's one of the hardest things you'll have to do in your first year, is try to figure out how many people are going to come, and you will never guess it right. You're probably not going to have a huge attendance unless you can spend tons of money on marketing, like billboards, and convince the local news stations to cover you and promote you ahead of time. And for a fan-run convention, that's probably not going to happen. So you're going to promote like online and with local clubs, and just spread the word of mouth. Promote at other conventions if you can. Promotion. You need that promotion. You gotta get the word out there. Let people know about your convention. They can't go if they don't know about it. But trying to predict the attendance, there's no average. It really depends on where you are, location. If you're in a place that doesn't have a lot of conventions within a reasonable driving distance, and there's a lot of people in that area that would be interested, like say you're in the middle of Wyoming, well, there's not a lot of conventions around, but there's also not a lot of people around. But if you were in, let's say, Portland, Oregon, and for some reason there were no other conventions in Portland, well, suddenly yours would be pretty popular. But, if you're in Florida, there's a million conventions there. So if you're starting another one in Florida, you're probably not going to have a huge attendance. So it really depends where you are, what else is around you. If there's a bunch of other conventions around you, look at the most recent one that started up. And it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, just look at the most recent one that started up and see what they got for attendance. Unless it's a big corporate thing like I mentioned earlier with billboards and stuff, because that's a whole nother level and you can't compare yourself to them. So see what else is around and what they've gotten for attendance, and plan lower than that, because they already exist. You're going to get less. And always underestimate. Try to, you don't want to say, oh, we're going to get thousands of people, and then only a few hundred show up, and you're stuck footing the bill for everything. So plan for a few hundred maybe, and then if thousands show up, well, then hopefully you can expand as you get pre-registrations in, maybe, or more people are inquiring. Maybe you'll get a sense like, okay, I think we're getting a lot of people. But don't let Facebook numbers fool you. If you've got like, oh, we've got 1,000 people following us on Facebook. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean you're going to get 1,000 people at your con. You're probably going to get less. So yeah, there's no easy way to predict an average attendance, but good luck with that. Also, don't start a convention. It's a really bad idea, always. Indilego Seraphim, I'm butchering that name, but there's like, I don't know if that's I's or L's, capitalization and lower, well, this person commented on Doug's interview with Toro Furia to say, "Oh, Pegasus Seiya Toro Furia in 2019. In Brazil, his voice is unforgettable with Seiya. We all love. Congratulations on this wonderful video." Well, thank you. I guess we've got a viewer in Brazil. In response to Doug's NYC report, Shiggy Media said, "Doug, you neglected to mention the Kugi Showcase." Oh, I'm sorry, I butchered that name. I've never heard this pronounced, and I've only seen it printed here. Showcase panel on Sunday. That's what I really went to the con for, besides sitting and hanging out with friends in the NYC area, and to check it out overall since it was my first year. I had a great time, and I agree with what you said about ANYC becoming the Anime Expo of the East Coast. I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So, let's take a look at what's coming up next. Coming up on AnimeCons TV, next week we look back on our 2019 predictions and make some new predictions for 2020. By the time we review those next year, hindsight will be 2020. Also, prediction in our 2020 prediction review, I'm probably going to make that same joke again, that hindsight is 2020. Yeah, that's my prediction. On December 16th, we'll have our Best of 2019 episode. And finally, on December 23rd, we'll do our annual year in review episode to close out the year. And if you have questions or comments, send them in, and they might make it into the next feedback episode. Please don't bother correcting my pronunciation. I'm sorry. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can just leave a comment on our videos, and while you're there, you can like and subscribe. Leave us a voicemail. Actually, you know what? If you want to correct my pronunciation, leave us a voicemail so I can hear how it's pronounced. Please don't type it in a comment. Call our voicemail line. Tell me how to pronounce these things. You can call us at 762-ADEQUATE. That's 762-233-7828. And it's just voicemail. You don't have to talk to anybody. Just leave us the pronunciation, and we'll see how that goes. And you can also text that number, but I want the voicemails. And we won't call you back or anything. We just get the voicemails. So you can also email us at podcast@animecons.tv. And when we're doing episodes, because we take breaks every now and then, but when we're doing them, you can find them posted Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern and noon Pacific. We post about them on Facebook and Twitter, so please share, retweet, get those links out to your friends, and show links to the YouTube video. Telling your friends about us is such an easy thing to do, costs nothing. And it really helps us out, because we don't beg you guys for money, we don't make you go to Patreon so you can watch, we don't put ads in our videos, we just ask, share. Get the word out there, let people know about us. That's all we want. And so don't miss any episodes. You can subscribe for free. You can find AnimeCons TV on YouTube. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Just go to itunes.animecons.tv or search in the Apple Podcasts app. We're on Spotify. We're pretty much anywhere podcasts are. And you can also watch on our site at animecons.tv. We've got all the episodes on AnimeCons.tv. And so you can find everything there. Our podcast feed only has the latest 100 episodes because I had to cut that back. It was getting really big because we had hundreds of episodes in there. It was taking too long to load. So 100 episodes. It's a good number. If you want to see all of them, just go to our site, AnimeCons.tv. And if you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at @pdelahanty, and I post about weird stuff. Sometimes my son, Star Wars, and anime conventions. But yeah, I don't post too much, so I'm not gonna flood you with things. So give me a follow, and we'll see you next week with our year in review. Oh no, our predictions episodes next week. See you then.